UCF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition. It's a Wednesday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Got a good show lined up today. We're going to kick it off here in just a second with Edgar Thompson from the Orlando Sentinel. Then we'll have JP Shadrick from Jaguars.com talk about the Jags, the injuries, them moving forward. A lot going on in the transfer portal, and the Gators win last night. Didn't play great in the first half, but came back and took care of Mary Mack, I guess that's how you pronounce it. Edgar, you're on the Titan MR hotline courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. This is my first time at the top of the show. I got to see the intro. Pretty fancy.
Yeah, I have nothing to do with that. It is pretty cool, though. I got people that put that all together. Edgar, you were at the basketball game last night.
Mm-hmm.
How was the crowd, and what was it like? Was this game on TV? I was at home. I couldn't find it.
I'm not sure. I was there, so I wasn't watching it on TV.
Yeah. So they played better in the second half. First half was brutal, right?
It was pretty rough. The crowd wasn't great, but it's a Tuesday night game against a opponent nobody. So you know the monitor in the Merrimack from your Civil War history class? Monitor in the Merrimack?
No, I don't know anything.
Okay, well, it was the first sea battle. You should go look at it online. It's these little rinky-dink boats that fought, and the Monitor won it. And the Merrimack, I think, might have been the Confederate ship, or I'm probably flipping it. Maybe the Confederate ship was the Monitor. Anyway, so I asked someone next to me, you remember the Monitor? I've never heard of it. So Merrimack, no one even knows about the battle, much less the college, is my point. I looked it up. It was founded in 1947. So nobody's relating to that. It's one of the things, Shane. So they're playing a lot of these neutral site games, you see, and some really good games. The Gator schedule, they have some interesting games, but they're all neutral site. There's not a lot of meat on the bone for the home schedule. And Tuesday night, it's going to be hard to get fans out there. Todd Golden should be praising the Rowdy Reptiles. Those kids show up every game and bring it. And they really juice the crowd because it wasn't much of one. But they fell behind. They were behind the whole half until late. And then they went on a 20-0 run. It was a 37-37 game. Todd called a timeout, or it could have been the TV timeout. I'm not sure. But I just happened to be looking down, right, at the huddle. I don't usually look at the huddle. I've been to a million basketball games. I don't watch that a lot unless there's an injury. And he is just going, not screaming, but he's animated, going from guy to guy to guy, energized. And they come out and go on a 20-0 run. So I asked him what he said to him. He's like, score the basketball, rebound the basketball. I mean, he just made it very simplistic. The way he answered was very funny, but he lit a fire in him because he just says, look, this wasn't the effort that I expect from this team. And, they brought it after that. I'll tell you the guy that was interesting, though. I mean, first off, on the positive, I love Walter Clayton Jr. Since the first day I saw him, I've really liked him. He's athletic. You remember he was a DB. He played with Jerron Dexter. You remember that? He was a recruited DB. He's an athlete. Played for Rick Pitino for a couple years. He's good, and he brings it every night. Now, he has a turnover here or there. He doesn't play perfectly, but he 26 last night. Very good. Everyone's been buzzing about the freshman Alex Condon, the 6'11 Aussie. He had 16 boards, most since Al Horford in 2005. Al Horford is a freshman, first-year freshman. had 18 against Alabama, most for a freshman, that is. Horford had 18. I remember that game. I was at it. And you're watching Horford just taking the ball like at the high point, like coming off the rim. It was like, okay, this guy's good. Like you could just see it early on with Al Horford, and he's still in the NBA, right? Still, I mean, which is amazing. I'm not predicting this for Alex Condon, but 16 boards, pretty impressive. And then Houck, the other freshman, had 11. So you get 27 boards from 2 freshmen. And but the guy on the negative, Riley Kugel, he's been very inconsistent. We were expecting, a superstar season out of this guy. Didn't even have an assist. Didn't play a whole lot in the second half. Todd just says he was just too casual and didn't seem very pleased. So for them to be the team that they can be, because I think this is a pretty good team. This team has a lot of potential, a lot of pieces. And Hadlockton didn't even play much because he's still nursing an ankle. Kugel's going to have to play like a star, and then this team could really be something. So, but they got Richmond this week, Saturday, and their non-conference schedule. I think they have Michigan. They play in Michigan. I think so.
Yeah, I think in the Jumpman Classic or whatever they call that.
Yeah, I mean
back in Charlotte.
That's a big game, and a high-profile game against a blue blood program, or what would be considered a big name program at least. So anyway, there you go. That's your best.
On the Titan MR text line, Chris from Mayaca says, ask Edgar if the DB on the basketball court would come play on the football team.
They could. He's a nice athlete, man. He's hard.
Yeah, he is.
And I like his toughness. He's a tough player. And you talk about these 3-sport athletes. Were you a 3-sporter? You played baseball, right?
I was a 3-sporter.
Yeah, I mean that was the thing, man.
I tell people when I speak to them, do not specialize. It's the worst thing you can do. It makes you a better athlete and a better person if you play at all. Chris on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plum, says, Edgar, could you just announce the breaking news and let the Gator Nation know that Billy is not bringing in an OC and Ed Ogeron isn't coming to Gainesville?
Well, Ed Ogeron definitely is not coming to Gainesville. I don't know about the OC thing. Willie Corn's name keeps coming up, so I don't know.
Yeah, yesterday on the program, everybody's talking about that they were hearing about the Washington offensive coordinator, which I don't know why he would leave Washington to come here. That's like a lateral move pretty much. But then you hear Willie Corn. Now, Willie Corn played a little bit at Clemson.
It's a step down for Washington. I mean, they're a damn playoff team.
They're in the playoffs. But I don't know why people – I mean, they just want somebody else with the title to call the plays, I think is what it is. Willie Corn has coached at, I think, Charleston Southern and Coastal Carolina, and now at Liberty. So everybody complains about Billy coming from the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt is above those conferences. So I don't know what's going to happen. Do you think there's any more coaching changes going to happen, Edgar, in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, there's I think. I mean, I assume. I don't know anything for concretely. They keep it pretty secretive over there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Long made the point on our pod the other day that if that Corey Raymond, Spencer stuff hadn't leaked out, we might still not even know that happened. You just don't know. Yeah. It probably, well, we would have, because Sean Spencer was at Texas A&M now. But the point being, things just don't come out. They don't broadcast this stuff. They don't announce it. I don't know what all the conversations are. I hear things. Billy, I believe, has been enlightened, let's say, that he probably would benefit, in people's opinion, from having somebody handling play calling duties and doing all that. But I think that he wants to have someone that adheres to the way he wants to run an offense. He isn't just going to bring someone in like Mouse Davis and say, okay, do the run and shoot, I'll get out of your way. You know what I'm saying? He isn't going to bring in someone with a diametrically opposed philosophy to his. who's just going to chuck it all over the yard or whatever. So I don't know what Willie Corn's background is particularly, but they would be more in lockstep than him just being autonomously calling plays and running the offense without Billy's input and involvement, which I respect that. Right? It's your program. You don't want to just hand
Well,
the
like I've said multiple times, and Low Life on 941 Low Life on YouTube says, Shane, do you really like the offensive scheme? There's some things I do like about it. My only suggestion or thing that I have a problem with is I'm in favor of throwing 6 deep balls, regardless of the scheme or what kind of route, 6 deep balls per game, because nothing bad is going to happen.
We saw that the other night.
You're going to get pass interference.
We saw that in the game the other day.
Yeah, and in Florida State, they didn't complete one deep ball against us, but they had like 3 PIs. That's the only thing, and it's not much different than what you're seeing from the other teams. It's much more conservative. But I go back to I'm a firm believer of this, and it has nothing to do with being a Gator and Billy Napier or whatever. But when coaches get new jobs, they're getting it because of what they've done at their previous jobs. And so I just don't see him turning it over. That's just my personal opinion. I have no idea if it's going to happen, but I can promise you.
He doesn't want to.
I can promise you, Edgar, and you agree or disagree with this statement. If he does have a new offensive coordinator next year, how many people are going to be bitching and complaining about play calling on my show? It's going to happen. Unless they're scoring
like 40 some a game.
They're still going to bitch, because I am sitting at the SEC championship game in this nice section with the other SEC guys, surrounded by bulldogs or whatever the hell they're called, because we were on the Georgia side. I cannot tell you, even the first drive where Georgia just drove right down the field and scored, the entire game, people were bitching and complaining at Kirby and Mike Bobo the whole time. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable what I was hearing up there. These guys hadn't lost. They'd won 29 straight games. These people are just bashing them. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If Coach Spurrier called the plays next year, people are going to complain.
Wasn't that why he ended up leaving? It's like winning 10 games wasn't good enough kind of thing.
Correct.
I wasn't here.
That's one of the reasons.
I wasn't here for the Spurrier era, unfortunately. I watched it from afar, of course, because it was exciting football and fun football to watch. But I heard that was the case, and I saw it. I've seen it a little bit, but I wasn't here for Urban, but for the first 2 years. So I haven't really been in the middle of like a program that had it really up and rolling to hear people complaining about it. I've only been around for the bad moments.
Yeah. They complain when it's good too. It's
no,
crazy.
That's what I'm saying. So I haven't been around when it's been like great for a consistent stretch. He definitely needs to be addressing special teams. We know that. Okay.
Yes.
But here's the bottom line on the offense. Until you get an offensive line, I don't care what you're doing, because this offensive line couldn't block anybody. Now, nobody's blocking Florida State lately. Florida State has 25 tackles for losses in the last 2 games. 25 in 2 games. That's incredible defensive front going right now. That Fisk kid, number 55, my Lord, that guy's good. But
well, speaking of that, I wanted to jump into the transfer portal. Did you see where, I can't think of his name right now, the guy, the defensive end for Florida State opposite of Jared Verse, number 11?
Okay.
He's in the transfer portal.
Oh, my Lord. Hopefully he comes to Gainesville. He was pretty good.
Yeah. He's in the transfer portal. If people missed it, Dylan Gabriel will be on his 3rd team in 3 years. He went from Oklahoma. He is now an Oregon Duck. It's absolutely insane.
Well,
1960. Let me read this real quick. 1966 HBC beers available at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, Gator games in the O-Dome, and select retail outlets. Crisp American Lager. That's 1966 HBC beer. What you got?
Well, I'm wondering about 941 Low Life for a minute. I hope he's okay. I mean, what kind of name is that?
I don't know.
It's kind of funny. No, but in all seriousness, I think Florida does have some potential at the edge for sure next year. But yeah, they need to develop that. Florida State is just showing. I know you probably talked this to death yesterday, whether they got screwed or didn't, and I understand why you put in Alabama, but I understand the argument for Florida State. But that defense is playing fantastically and just showing you can just wreck an offense and win games that way, even when you don't even have an offense. So I'm going to the game tomorrow in Tallahassee, Daytona Mainland, to see LJ McCray. Go out there and do a story on him. I'm looking forward to seeing him. I hear he's like just a transcendent kind of talent. So we'll see. He's a huge recruit for the Gators, and that's where they're at right now. They need to secure this recruiting class. This is where I was leading. They got to get that thing in the door. I don't know about the Xavier Sam kid. I worry about him. The safety. I'm talking about the 5-star safety.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering about him.
I think Texas is trying to flip him, right?
Well, exactly. And then this Amaris Williams, I mean, he's still listed as on the Gators, but Ohio State seems like maybe going to get him. That Billy just doesn't need any more losses, man, on anywhere, right? Recruiting needs some wins, and then the portal needs some wins there. I don't know when all this stuff's going to start trickling in and guys are going to start leaving. You keep hearing ETN any day now. Is that going to happen? What are you hearing? It sounds like he's as good as gone.
I mean, I heard it all up in Atlanta that he was going to Georgia. So yeah, I don't know.
Seems he's as good as gone, but that's a big loss. But if you can put those resources elsewhere that he was going to demand, I guess, but they got to build the offensive line with this portal side. They got
so Patrick Payton's the defensive end. He's wanting over $1 million. People are reporting. He's a really good player. Low Life says his last name is Low. So he did. Zach wants to know on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Do you think we go after Rocket Sanders from Arkansas? He's in the portal. He's a Florida kid, I believe. He's a good player.
He's from Rockledge. He's going to come with the big price tag. Is he going to be much cheaper than ETN? And Montreal's coming back. It sounds like I like Trayon Webb. Cam Carroll will be back. I don't know that running back, what your philosophy is on that. The NFL philosophy is don't need to necessarily go for the top guys. I mean, Bijan, what's his name? Is it Johnson? Bijan Johnson?
Bijan Robinson for the Falcons.
I mean, he's starting to look like was worth the pick, but there aren't a lot of those guys. ETN, I think, kind of is. It's a big loss, man, if Trevor leaves. I'm going to be bummed. I loved watching him. I mean, he's the most fun player on the team to watch. So I don't, man, a lot is going to unfold. Maybe as we're speaking, it's unfolding. You're just sitting here we're at the mercy of like social media, right? At this point, these kids, they announce it on their own time. Gators certainly aren't going to announce any of this stuff. We're getting Graham Mertz here at 11. Did you know about that?
I did not.
No, we're talking to Graham at 11 about his return. The thing that's weird about that, Shane, and Billy hasn't been out since the Florida State game to talk to the media, and I understand that. He's recruiting. He's got a lot of other problems and things to worry about than the media. But basically, you're putting Graham Mertz out there to talk about the state of the program. I mean, it isn't like we're just going to, we're going to have questions about a lot of things that are, he's mature enough to handle that. I think today's his 23rd birthday, by the way. But, we haven't talked to him since they ended with 3 losses and lost to FSU and had a losing season. And I'm curious his thoughts. Is he hearing they're getting an OC? He would know. We are.
But like I said, statistically, whatever, that's the biggest thing that everybody on my show wants to talk about is the offense coordinator. I just don't think that's a priority. I think we got to worry more about special teams and defense, adding players on that side of the ball. That's just me personally. Whether I'm right or wrong, That's what my eyes tell me. Would you
hearing
agree with that, Edgar? The
I
problems on this team are defense and special teams.
I mean, the line. I keep saying the line. That's like the 10th time.
Well, yeah. I mean,
but
we need interior guys on both sides of the ball.
They were scoring points to a decent degree the second half of the season. I mean, I'd like to see the offense a little more dynamic personally, but I don't know whether that's the line, whether that's Graham Mertz's limitations. I mean,
I don't think he had. I would like for you to ask him that today, because I don't think he has any limitations when it comes to throwing the football. Zero.
You think his vertical throwing?
I think it's perfectly fine. You got to call it. I don't think we call it enough, because you should call 6 to 8 balls deep a game, and if you hit 2 or 3, that's a huge game, because you're not going to hit them all.
Well, they
can't expect to throw 3 and hit all 3. That's not even living in la la land.
They had 14 30-yard completions this year.
I'd be curious to break down how many they called. How many were called, you think?
I don't know. He certainly didn't throw many downfield.
Yeah, I didn't see many called. So anyway,
no, they have a lot of things to address clearly when you're 5-7, and maybe offensive coordinator isn't number one priority, but it probably is. The strength program. A lot of people are wondering about right? Mark Hockey. There are questions. I'm hearing there's a lot of consternation about what's going on there, and he's coming back. I don't know what the future of Rob Sale and Stapleton are yet. I mean, in some cases, Shane, we're talking these contracts of these coaches run out. They're 2-year deals, and they expire on January 31st. So some of these guys could just be kind of looking, and then the move will happen. And really, the coaches you're going to want to hire are probably still coaching their teams right now, because they're in bowl games. You don't want to go hiring a bunch of guys that's teams, went 4-8.
Yeah. Real quick, Joseph on Facebook Live says a lot of head scratching. Greg says, Shane, stop complaining about the deep balls in the offense. I'm not complaining. I'm just stating a fact. A lot of head scratching moments on offense this year based solely off play calling and situation. Billy's offense requires everything to go perfect. I agree with that. I'm saying y'all are talking about the team in general. Bigger needs are defense, special teams, and O-line more than play calling or any of that right now. If you can have Steve Spurrier calling plays, but those guys up front can't block, it ain't gonna do you a damn bit of good. That's where I'm trying to go with this. And then somebody on here, I wanted to read this. So Trezell on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, we still need to grab a QB out of the portal. I like Mertz, but it's better options out there. Make him compete. Okay. A, what are the better options? And B, when you have an established starter like him, how are you going to afford another quarterback?
You can't afford them.
Can't.
That's the problem, okay? These kids are leaving in droves, the quarterbacks, because they're commanding $1 million plus. Matt Rule said $1.5 million to 2. You saw that, right? Matt Rule said a portal quarterback of any note is getting $1.5 million plus. Okay. Graham Mertz is making some money to come back to Florida. Trust me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to throw his business out there, but I've heard what he's getting, and it's significant. And whether it's correct or not,
it's more than I ever made in 1 year in the National Football League.
Probably, but
I know. I mean, from what I've heard,
did you ever make $1 million?
No.
Okay. So you can't afford another one. The money's just not there just to go out into the portal and get everyone you want, whether it's the kid from, I've already forgotten his name, Florida State. What was his name? Powell.
Who's this?
The Florida State kid. Number 11.
Which one number 11 is I forgot his name already. Number 11 defensive end. Let's just call him that.
Well, you can't afford him.
We can't afford
certainly
it.
can't afford another quarterback. And they're guys you're about to lose, you probably can't afford.
Peyton's his last name, Patrick Peyton.
So yeah, you just can't. There's not an endless reserve of money here at Florida right now with the NIL program, which there's undergoing some changes with that, I'm hearing, and they're going to try to, raise more funds. There's a contingent of boosters that are very loyal and very generous, and they need to expand. You've heard this, right? They need to expand the pool of big money boosters, sponsors, these kinds of things, make more corporate involvement with the NIL program to, build the kitty up a little bit, because they just don't have the money just to go get anyone they want. And Billy Napier, I don't feel sorry for a guy in his position. He's got it's a great job. He's making a great living, and this is what he wanted. Okay. So I don't feel sorry for him, but my God, how much is he dealing with transfer portal and NIL? Just constant.
Well, I saw a bunch of coaches recently and talked to them all the time, and you're going to see more and more college coaches go to the National Football League just because of the headaches.
It can't be fun dealing with that all the time. You're dealing with this kid wants that. This agent is asking for this. Can we get this kid? Can we raise this? Do you think Billy wants to go out with hat in hand begging for money? I mean, that isn't what he's came to this.
No, he needs to coach football.
That's he needs to put his roster together.
And then people say, well, look what Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, those schools recruit for themselves now because they've been in the hunt of the playoffs year in and year out the last 10 to 15 years. And I don't know. It's tough. It's not even imaginable. Like Chris says here, Shane, can you imagine the NFL with all 1-year contracts and no salary cap? That's what the NIL and portal is.
Exactly.
It is just absolutely.
That was well put.
Yeah, it's just nonsense what's going on. And before we let you go, Edgar, real quick, your thoughts? Did you read up on what the NCAA is trying to propose?
They're trying to end the NIL the way it's currently the way it's currently under. They don't want this unlimited movement and payment, but this is going to take some time, years potentially, for all these pieces to fall in place. Yes, I don't understand how they're putting this on each school. Is that what I read? That it's going to be up to each school?
Yeah, something like that.
I didn't understand that. I obviously need to dig in with it more. Scott Strickland and them are in Las Vegas, I think, for the Tim Tebow thing. When was Tebow inducted?
Last night out in Vegas.
Yeah, they were there for that. I want to catch up with Scott on it. Somebody who's actually paying attention. I don't think a lot of people knew this was coming, is my understanding. That this just kind of came out of nowhere. People were blindsided at the administrative level. Mm-hmm. What my understanding is. So that's more NCAA, disorganization. But I give Charlie Baker credit that he's at least trying to rein this thing in, because it's unsustainable. Bottom line, it is unsustainable. And some of these kids are going to benefit from it now. And it's just like the person who got the 2.5 mortgage rate to the person who's trying to buy a house right now. Sorry, but right, some guys are going to get in under the door. Graham Mertz being among them. They're going to cash in. I don't think 2 years from now there's going to be these levels of deals and movement. Is at least ideally what the NCAA is hoping to curtail. We'll see if they can. I mean, the horse is out of the barn right now. I don't know if they're going to be able to rein it back in.
Yeah. All right. Rodney says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel, Billy needs a GM for player personnel discussions. They have plenty of that stuff. And Billy does a pretty good job, I believe, in evaluating. It all comes down to you have to convince that guy to take the money you're offering him, but people fail to realize that player is getting offers from other schools in America. So
I do think Billy has the eye for talent, and that's one really good thing he can build on. There's a lot of other things. I do feel like we're going to see more staff changes. There's going to be an offensive person brought in. I'm convinced that's going to happen. And I do think there were some times where there was plenty of head scratching play calls. And
I agree with that. I agree, but that's with every team.
And guys, Shane, not getting the football consistently enough. How many times did Eugene Wilson, where you're like, why is Eugene not getting the football? Why is Etienne not playing as much?
I agree. And well, the Etienne, the issue was his pass blocking. I
get that, but my God, it's something.
Yeah, but I do know this. I do know this. I think they try to keep too many players. This ain't just here. This is everywhere nowadays. Try to keep too many players happy by getting touches and all that stuff. You know, because they're worried about that guy's leaving if he doesn't get enough touches. And so you try to keep everybody happy. That's just my opinion.
No, it is.
I've always said I would have played Pearsall, Boardingham, Wilson, and Andy Jean or any of those other freshmen. That's who I would have put on the field because they can run. I need dudes that can run and score touchdowns.
Well, that's one of the problems with special teams. I'll end on this, and we talked about this earlier in the season. It came up, I think Kirby brought it up. When you have guys that are freshmen, you got to keep them interested and keep them kind of feeling like they're involved and engaged because they'll leave otherwise. So you end up playing a bunch of young guys that are too inexperienced. They're making mistakes on special teams, and you get what you get. And we saw a bunch of mistakes on special teams this year. I'm not saying some of it wasn't just pure organization and coaching issues, but when you're playing all these young guys, because you don't want, Dijon, Johnson or whatever to hit the portal. He played special teams primarily. I'm not throwing that kid under the bus. I don't know if he made a bunch of mistakes on special teams. I don't think he did. But you know what I'm saying. You're trying to keep too many people happy. When the football coach is supposed to be telling you what to do, right? It's not supposed to work in the other direction. I don't remember playing sports with me telling the coach what's up.
Yeah. Edgar, good stuff. Let everybody know they can follow you on Twitter.
OS Gators. If you want to give me a follow, there'll be plenty of stuff on that feed as time goes the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Signing day is 2 weeks from today.
We appreciate you, my man. Have a good day. Enjoy Graham merch today. That's Edgar Thompson from the Orlando Sentinel. Join us on the Titan More hotline. Take a quick timeout. Come back. Talk a little Jaguars. JP Shadrick from Jaguars.com. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Duffield Home Improvements for your window, siding, and roofing needs. Radware, your local provider of promotional products, uniforms, and apparel. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Ruse Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Back to the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. We have JP Shadrick from the Jags. How you doing, my man?
I'm well, Shane. It's nice to be back with you. It's been a relatively busy week here in Jacksonville after Monday Night Football and the aftermath of that game and the wild game itself. In overtime, the Jaguars lost, and then, of course, all the injuries that have mounted up after that game. And we'll see how the week goes moving into Cleveland this week.
Let's start with a couple of injuries. I actually went to bed at halftime, so I missed a lot of stuff. But I did see Christian Kirk catch a wide open corner route, and I thought he might have dislocated his shoulder the way he kind of came down on it. What actually is his injury, and how long is he out?
Yeah, it's a core muscle injury officially. So when he twisted, ball was in the air and he kind of had to turn around.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he kind of tweaked whatever down there. And you saw when he hit the ground, he was grabbing around his groin area on the left side. So it sounds like, he could go under the knife. So he might be done for this season. That's unfortunate because he's a huge piece to what this offense does. He and Evan Ingram, I think, are really the keys to the passing game for the Jaguars because they can set up the short stuff. Then you come up and cover that. Then they can hit the deep stuff down the field. And that's a big loss because he was really starting to come on the outside.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
Is it a high ankle sprain? Is it worse than that? How long will he be out?
Well, I haven't seen him with my own two eyes yet this week, to be quite honest with you. But the positive vibes from yesterday were a little surprising. It doesn't sound like they're going to have to go under the knife with him, which is great news. And Doug Peterson said on Tuesday that it's more of a pain management issue than anything. There's nothing really structurally that's too bad, which is a great sign. Yeah, I honestly, on a short week, I would still be a little surprised if he played on Sunday. However, we've seen him go out there after a knee injury earlier this year on a short week on a Thursday night and play and figure it out. Just the optics of that on Monday night when he's being helped off the field and being helped down the hallway, and that just didn't look great. However, he's the one that wanted to walk in. He refused the cart, by the way. He wanted to make sure he walked off the field and walked down the hall. There's a little national narrative that the Jags don't have carts and they're treating their play. It's ridiculous. It really is. So he's a tough kid. We'll see. This is a little different, and they need him for the long run anyway. So if there's any risk at all of re-injuring it or making it worse, they won't let him go. But I think it's just a little too early in the week to tell.
Yeah, speaking of that national mess, we have a text here on the Titan MR text line from George. He wanted your thoughts on Colin Cowherd's comments.
Yeah, it's just
stupid.
I get from the national outside 10,000 feet perspective, you see a thing, you don't really know the inside of it. You may not do enough research to call down and see what's really going on, and you go on the air and talk about it. And that's just a ridiculous take. The quarterback wanted to walk off the field. What are you going to do? Tell him no? Or, force him on the cart when he doesn't want to, or whatever it is. I just think it was a bad take.
Yeah. Asa on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mental Law, says, JP, we were in the East Club. How did our defense give up 419 yards? They ran through huge holes all night. Number 33 looked like he was out of position all night.
Yeah, they ran the ball. The Bengals are one of the worst run teams in the NFL coming into the game. They'd only been over 100 yards twice all season long. The Jaguars were ranked third in the NFL in rush defense coming in, and they just gashed them all night long. They couldn't stop it. Communication was a bit of an issue, and Doug Peterson was asked about that after the game. He said, we always talk about crowd noise hurting the offense and being a good thing for the defense, but sometimes it's hard for the defense to hear too. It's not a bad thing. You still want that crowd noise, but they got to figure out how to communicate through that. So that was not a good look at all. And that's their number one priority, is always stopping the run. It was a little bit shocking to see that happening, because that set up everything else for Jake Browning. It made it easier for him on play action to dink and dunk it down the field and have such a great completion percentage all night long. It started with that run game, and they've got to figure that out this week against Cleveland, because guess what? The Browns are going to run the ball too.
John says that sounds like the Florida's run defense. Yeah, it was not good the other night. All right, moving forward, obviously, I think the Houston Texans and the Colts are a little bit better than people thought this year. Do you still feel pretty good about the Jags winning their division?
Well, let's see how the quarterback is, right? That's priority number one. Get him back in the field and keep him healthy down the stretch. Now, the advantage for the Jaguars is they do have the tiebreakers with both of those teams. They swept the Colts this year in both games. They split with the Texans. So those teams would have to overcome a lot, almost have to win out. The Jaguars would really have to falter down the stretch here to collapse this thing. We've seen it happen before. It happened last year, of course. The Jaguars overtook the Titans and won on the last day when they were down, 4 games in the division. It is possible, but let's see how the quarterback is. These next 2 games are huge, obviously, in the AFC North for seeding. The Jaguars have the Browns this week and then welcome the Ravens in 2 weeks on Sunday Night Football. The number 1 seed might be tough because of the loss on Monday now. It's not out of the realm, but they've got to start winning some ball games in a hurry, and not only to keep the division teams away, but to be as high as they can in the seeding come playoff time.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I read this the other night after the game. Was this the first time in the NFL where a coach's son played in the game for him?
That's a good question, and I'm guessing it probably is. I don't remember another one because, I just don't remember another one that would have happened like that. And it was because of the injury to Brenton Strange, the rookie tight end out of Penn State, came up with a foot injury on about Thursday at practice and was unable to go. So Josh Peterson's been on the practice squad, and they brought him up on a standard elevation on game day, and he's back down to the practice squad now. But he was out there running around. I think he did some special teams things, and it's not like he's brand new. I mean, he was in the USFL. He's been around for a couple years in those kind of settings. So, he's here, and he answered a lot of those questions in the summertime about having his son on the team and all that. And, I don't know how Josh Peterson's mother feels about it, but Doug's okay with it.
Yeah. Andy says here on Facebook, the McKays back in the day in Tampa, I think McKay's son did play now that I think about it.
Okay.
Has there ever been any talk about Press Taylor being hired by his brother, Zach Taylor?
I don't know about that. I think he was asked about a lot of that this week because of the family connections going into the game and all that, and it's just never really come up. I mean, Press Taylor has been on the Doug Peterson tree. Zach's been in a totally different part of the NFL, and they just haven't really crossed paths like that. I don't think Doug Peterson would just let him go to be an OC somewhere else right now. I mean, he wants him as his offensive coordinator. You can block those kind of lateral moves. The only thing you can't block is when Press starts interviewing for head coaching jobs, which I think at some point will be coming. He's got the personality to handle it. The innovative play calling style, I think, may not always work sometimes, but I think he's got a future as a head coach, and probably sooner rather than later.
Text here on the Titan MR text line from Bob in Miami. He says, JP, how close do you think Fred Taylor can get to the Hall of Fame?
It's a great question. He's a semifinalist now for the 5th year in a row. That means he's down to the 25, and there's another cut down to 15. That would be a finalist round. And that's when you get in the room, so to speak, using air quotes. And that's when the selectors can talk about you in the setting on Super Bowl weekend in one room. And that's when the real discussion begins about candidacy. I think at some point he'll get into that finalist round, and that's what it's really going to take for him, because it's going to be a conversation. I mean, he had a lengthy career, won Pro Bowl, didn't win a Super Bowl, There's a lot of those things. There's a lot of great things too. I think he's like 17th all-time rusher, bunch of touchdowns. You want highlight plays. He's got highlight plays and big moments for the Jaguars. So, once he gets into that finalist round, whenever that is, I think he'll have a good shot. And it might take him a couple of times getting to that round to finally get over the hump, but he's very much deserving. There's no doubt about that. And I think you just have to be a little more patient with Fred.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's as good as there was. All right, JP, let's switch gears a little bit from the Jags. You do a lot of college football announcing for Westwood One as well. I want to get your thoughts about what the committee did. You're an Alabama grad.
Yeah.
Some people said that they should have just decided like this week or next week to do a playing game between the 4 and 5. Let Alabama play Florida State and let's figure it out on the field. Just your thoughts on what happened.
I think the playoff is designed right now to create television games, in my opinion. And the best television game is Michigan-Alabama. Those two teams are set up for each other. That is going to be an absolute war at the Rose Bowl. Two blue blood names playing really good football at the Rose Bowl game in a semifinal on New Year's Day. That is must-see TV. Okay, that's one truth. The other truth is that Florida State got screwed, and they won the ACC. They did everything they had to do. The other truth, the third one, is that Georgia probably deserved a shot to defend again.
Yep.
Even with that close loss to Alabama. If that's the only blemish for a back-to-back defending champ, and they didn't get blown out in the SEC game, by the way, unfortunately, we only have 4 spots. And that's where somebody's going to get, upset, or a couple teams are going to get upset. So I think all those are true. Next year, we won't have to worry about it. But that doesn't help Florida State. If they go down and beat Georgia, okay, then they have a legitimate case, and they certainly do right now. I'm not saying they don't now, but that would be the cherry on top. If they can go down and beat Georgia in the Orange Bowl, okay, then put up the banner in Tallahassee, in my opinion.
I don't think a lot of people from either team are going to be playing in that game. Willie on the Titan Mar text line says, JP, are you a Heisman voter? And even if you aren't, who would you be voting for?
I'm not. That's a process is strange. It's like it's regions, and apparently the Southeast region is jam-packed with voters. Like they don't change them or roll, and there's hundreds. I mean, there's so many of them, so it's just hard to kind of get in that loop. Whatever. I will say I had Ohio State twice, and I can see why the wide receiver is a finalist. That makes a lot of sense to me. He is that good of a player. Nobody could really cover him. Michigan couldn't cover him. Penn State certainly couldn't in that game, and he did it year over year. I think that's a good one. I just have a feeling the two guys out west are going to steal votes from each other from that region, and Penix and Bo Nix. I think Penix is probably the guy, in my opinion, that I would vote for, just because of what he's done all year long. He beat Oregon twice. I mean, what else do you want the kid to do? But the flashiness of LSU's quarterback is the one that really – he might come like a freight train at the end and overtake everybody because of the split votes out west. Because do you really want to vote for a wide receiver out of Ohio State? It could be, at the end of the day, the LSU kid winning the thing.
I think he wins in a landslide. I think he's as good a player as I've seen. I think he's better than Lamar Jackson was. He's a better thrower. He's an elite runner. So we'll see. Yeah. Before we get you out of here, Fred on the Titan Mar text line wants to know your Super Bowl picks.
Well, let's
Jaguars.
see. I was going to say, let's see how the quarterback's doing. The 49ers, man, they put on a show the other night in Philadelphia. Oh, my gosh. And they did it against the Jags a few weeks ago. We got to see that firsthand, what kind of team they really are. Even after they had lost 3 in a row, they are still the 49ers. And I think they have to be right there at the top. And Dallas is not far off if they can figure it out in the playoffs, which is a big ask for that organization. And then Philly will be there too. So they'll be all right there in the mix again. But I think San Francisco is the team to beat, in my opinion, in the NFC. And it's wide open, the AFC. Can Miami sustain it? We'll see. They've got the explosive ability on offense to do it. the Ravens are probably playing the best football in the AFC right now, in my opinion. Both sides, defense, they can run it. They got Lamar. They've got everything going for them. They don't have the tight end right now. He's banged up, and we'll see them head-to-head in a couple of weeks. So if the Jaguars can get off the deck here and figure out some games and rally down the stretch, maybe they have some momentum going into the playoffs as well. So for me right now, if I had to pick it today, it'd be Niners, Ravens, subject to change depending on that Sunday night game here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let everybody know how they can listen to you with all your Jaguar stuff. And then do you have any broadcast NFL games coming up?
Yeah, so we're most days on Jaguars.com, the official team website. Our flagship is 1010XL in Jacksonville, so all of our radio shows are on there, 92.5 FM as well. And then I've got another weekend off from Westwood One. I picked up a Saturday when they scheduled those 3 Saturday games in 2 weeks. I've got the primetime Broncos-Lions game on Westwood One at Ford Field, Detroit. Should be a really good matchup. And, Broncos were playing a little better, and then they lost last week. And, of course, the Lions are right there at the top of the NFC North. So that'll have some big-time playoff implications, and it's the night before the Jags Sunday night game back here in Jax. So a lot coming up, man. It's fun football time.
Good stuff, JP. Appreciate your time, my man, and we'll talk to you soon.
It's always a pleasure. Have a great day, Shane.
All right, that's JP Shadrick talking a little Jaguars, a little college ball as well. We appreciate him joining us on the Tight Number hotline. Radware is a family-owned business that prides itself in excellent customer service while providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. Let's get to This Day in Sports before we get out of here. This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. This day, back in 1961, the 27th Heisman Trophy Award went to Ernie Davis, running back, Syracuse University. He was the first African-American to win the award. I didn't know that. That's interesting. So that's This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Tomorrow we'll have Brent Beard on here. We'll also have Marty Paulman from theprepzone.com. He'll be coming to us live from Tallahassee. He's covering all the state championship football games, which start tomorrow. I want to say Madison County and Hawthorne play tomorrow night. And then Friday morning, I believe Trinity Catholic in this area plays for a state title. And I can't remember who else is playing. So we'll get all the information from Marty Paulman. Andy says, Facebook Live brought to you by Mellon Law. Do you think Aaron Rodgers should be allowed to even try to come back? This is absolutely not, in my opinion. I don't even know why he would. The Jets have no chance. I don't know what their record is. Maybe they do have a chance. I just don't see how that's possible to come back that quickly from an Achilles. So I think he's done for the year. At least he should be. But who knows? He may try it. But I think I saw where the Jets just cut the quarterback they were playing. Can't even remember his name. And then they signed somebody off the Seattle practice squad. But they got some bad offense there. It's a shame. Got a really good defense. Hope you enjoyed today's program. Again, we want to thank JP Shadrick and Edgar Thompson join us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. Have a great day, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.